Hey guys, welcome back. I got a video here for you that I've been itching to do for a long time since I picked up this 96 XR250 you see up front. This is my 98 XR400 that I've had forever, and I've been wanting to recreate the Shootout that I saw in Dirt Bike magazine from like 1998 or so, 99 maybe, where Scott Summers took the 250, the 400, and the 600 and compared them. Unfortunately, I don't have an XR600 to compare with these two. Those things are the hardest to find, the regular XR600s, the air-cooled ones. So this is going to have to do for now. So if you remember, I picked up this 250 earlier this year, I think it was right after Christmas, January I think, and needed to rewire the coil, or the stator, I'm sorry, and got that running. Put some new tires on there, fork seals, the boots, and a couple other things, air filter and stuff like that, and we got it running. And it's actually a really fun bike. You know, compared to my 400, it does feel a little more nimble. And I looked up the specs online here before I started this, and I think the claimed dry weight for the 250 is 240 pounds, whereas the claimed dry weight for the 400 is 257, I think it said, dry weight. So that's almost 20 pounds different. It's pretty drastic, and you can feel it when you're riding them, especially in the tight stuff. But the 400 makes just way more bottom and mid-range. I mean, more mid-range. I guess the 250 has some pretty good bottom end. I think the specs for that, and you never know what to believe with horsepower numbers, but I think the torque for the 250 max torque was like 18 foot-pounds, and the 400 was like 25 foot-pounds, if I remember correctly. And max horsepower on the 400 was around 34, I think, 33, 34. 250 was around 29, I think, 29, 30. So the horsepower difference isn't that much. The torque is where you feel the difference with in the mid-range area on the 400. Both down low though, they're pretty close, I gotta say. But we're gonna take these both for a ride here, and I'm gonna do the same exact loop on both bikes, helmet cams. We're gonna start out with the 250, I think, first. And I'm not gonna do the full 10-mile loop. It would just take too long for this video, so I'm going to do about half the loop, the first half of it pretty much, which will consist of lots of tight stuff, good hill climbs, good stuff, big hill climbs that can test the overall power, you know, that kind of stuff. The tight stuff will test the torque. We got some technical stuff that will you know, you'll be able to feel the weight differences. So I'm going to start out on the 250, like I said, and just throw the helmet cam on and let it ride, and I'll kind of, you know, give you my 2 cents as we're riding. And like I said, we got two fresh tires on both these bikes. So up front we have on the 250 is the what is this, the Tusk IMEX T35, which is the intermediate tire. It's got a pretty good pattern. It bites pretty good back here, and it works good back here because we got a mix of hard packed rocks and loamy stuff. Out back we have the same tire, the Tusk IMEX 35. Like I said, it works pretty good. I've only had a couple rides on this, so they're pretty fresh. On the 400, the same front tire as what's on the 250, IMEX T35. This one is brand new. It's got the nubs on it still. You might hear some chatter when I'm riding the 400 because the knobs actually just barely kiss the top of the fork brace that I got on the 400. And I figured after a little ride, that's just going to wear that down just enough so we won't hear that, but you may hear it on the video, I don't know. Out back though, we have the VE33s. These are a lot softer knobs than what's on the IMEX, so I'm assuming this will probably hook up pretty good in the slick rock and you know, the rooty hill climbs and stuff, but we're going to see. So I'm going to jump on the 250 first, like I said, and we're going to start that loop. We'll do about maybe 5 miles of a mix of tight stuff, hill climbs, a few open spots. We'll get a good feel for both of them. So, all right, enough talking. I'm going to jump on now. All right, starting out on the 250, like I said, I don't know of any power adders that were on this bike. I didn't do any modifications. I do know that somebody gutted the baffle that's on the exhaust, so it's extremely loud. And that does open it up some more, and you get a little more power from that, so that probably helps a little bit. But I just put a uni filter in there, and no modifications that I'm aware of on the engine. That's all stock as far as I know. the like I said, the baffle, and possibly I forgot what the jets were on there, unless somebody jetted this thing before I got it, which I don't know, but it runs good. It runs pretty strong. So this one's got the stock bars on it still, and no bark busters, so it's got a little bit more of a cramped feeling compared to the 400, which I have the I got those Renthal bars on there, which open up the cockpit a little bit more. But you know, I'm used to, I rode that bike forever with stock bars, so you know, I can get used to this pretty quick. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna head this way, loop all through there, and I'm gonna end up coming up behind the 400 when this part of the loop's done, and then we'll jump on the 400. We're gonna start out with some tree crossings here and a big hill climb. Get this thing started off right. Got some tricky log crossings here to do. Having a light bike in those situations is nice. We'll have to see how the 400 handles that. So this kind of stuff is where you really feel the weight difference. And coming up here is where you feel the power difference. Got a nice hill climb coming up here on the left. You get no run at it, so I'm going to try the second gear on this bike first. Get on it hard. No problem at all. We've got good conditions back here too. It just rained the other day, so the dirt's a little tacky. It's not loose and dusty or anything. We got good conditions to test them both on the same day, within a few minutes of each other, really. Get back into the tight and technical here. Got a little lower seat height than the 400, I think. Gives you a little more confidence in that stuff where you got to put your feet down every once in a while on an off camber. So far, braking feels about the same. Maybe a slight advantage to the 250 from what I remember on the 400. You know, I've had that bike a lot longer, so we'll be able to feel it back to back. But right now I'm liking the brakes on this because yeah, it's got less weight to stop in some of these downhills, so that always helps. Okay, we're not done yet. Eats up those roots, no problem. Another decent little climb right here. Had to make reroutes around some stuff, so this doesn't look real beaten in yet, but it's a new way to go. Yeah, oh boy. I just slid all the way down there, wheels locked up. Oh boy. That's gonna be scary on the 400. Tight section through here. Here, especially on the 400. We'll see how the 250 does. Basically a 90-degree turn up this hill with no run. Stay on the gas. There we go. Just got to be feathering that gas. I have not had to clutch this once to get it to, I'd have to feather it to get it to rev up. Just all torque, first and second gear mostly on all this stuff. cruise down it. See if we get any traction this time. We got the brakes squealing again. That's not so bad. Arm pump starting to set in a little bit for me. Should be even more on the 400, I think, by now. Being that it's a lot heavier, we'll find out though. This one's a little tricky. You got to kind of have to follow this rut going down here. It takes you where it wants to go. Brakes are killing me. Oh my. That front end dove pretty good there. Almost went over the handlebars. Doing push-ups off the handlebars there. Yeah, I can feel the front end flexing quite a bit through that, which is probably, you know, lack of a fork brace, why I'm feeling that. Couple trees across here. Thing makes quick work of that, nice and nimble, plenty of torque. Okay, now slippery rocks. Let's see how she does through here. Very gentle on the throttle. Perfect. Right. Again, the bike just kind of flexes through that stuff. Back into tight technical here. Throw this bike around nice and easy. Tires are biting nice on this off-camper stuff. Are actually hooking up pretty good on the hard slippery rocks too. I was afraid an intermediate tire would be a little too hard. test for this bike. It's one I didn't do last time on it just because I don't want to break any levers, but we're going to try it today for the sake of the video. We call it the Queen Mother. It was a big hill, big scary hill for us back in the day as kids, so, and it's still a pretty tough hill sometimes. So we're going to try it, but we drop down here and then I'm going to hit it right there. You'll know when I'm on it because I'm going to be on the gas pretty good. Hit it hard in second. Oh, almost made it. That's it right up there. And I got over the hard stuff. So I'm going to see if I can just turn this sideways and crawl up here. That's where the extra power would come in handy. Down at the bottom, I wouldn't have to be full throttle. You get out of whack like that, it'll send you off the trail. This is the kind of stuff this bike shines right here. Tight single track, where you got all kind of slippery roots and rocks to deal with. Just waiting to take your bike out from under you. Plus suspension just soaks this up real nice. Third gear through here, just above idle. Second. This thing turns so nice. Short wheelbase. Makes it so nimble back here. Okay, just a little bit longer to go. Pretty snotty down here too. Alright, I'm going to try the big log jump. Alright. Back towards the 400. So that's pretty awesome. All right, so this thing is super nimble. The front brakes could use a little help, I think, because I got some squeaking. I did put new pads on there, but I think the pads might have been contaminated with some fork oil at one point. So I'll have to address that. But other than that, super nimble, plenty of low end grunt. And you know, it did everything except for that the Queen Mother hill that we call it. Really just because I had to go full throttle at it, and I got out of whack because the front end came up and I couldn't steer, so I was heading towards trees, so I had to let off. As soon as you let off on that hill, you're pretty much done. So another stab at it, I probably would have made it. But overall, super fun to ride in this kind of woods. You know, like I said, I've grown up on that bike forever, so I'm used to the 400, so it's a little bit of biases might be towards that just because I'm so used to that bike. But this feels like a bigger XR200. It's just as nimble, pretty much just as nimble as the XR200, maybe slightly less because it is heavier, but it's got way more power than a 200, so I can carry second and third gear a lot more on this. But yeah, great woods bike for back here for sure. All right, now it's the XR400's turn. This is the bike I've had since I was 19. Got this in July of 1999. Still in the original engine, so it could probably use rings, but it's still got good compression. Doesn't smoke, doesn't use oil, so I kind of just let it run. You know, change the oil religiously. As for mods, we got the fork brace on here. I did the Gordon's mods, which you grind down the inlet on the header for better airflow. I drilled the holes in the spark arrestor, and I rejetted, put a unifilter, and uncorked the airbox. That gave it a lot more snap than stock. I mean, it was still pretty good stock, but when you do that, it takes away a lot of that delay you get right off idle. So after doing that, I just pretty much left it alone, and been riding it like this ever since. So I almost forgot, this bike has the pumper car, Mikuni pumper I put on this. After I did the Gordon mods, you know, it ran okay, and didn't have any complaints with the regular jetting on the Gordon mods. But it was a good deal on this for a Black Friday special, so I bit the bullet and picked it up, and it does add more snap to the bike. You can loft the front tire in second and third a lot easier with the Mikuni. It does suck down the fuel a lot more though, so keep that in mind. You know, it goes through gas a lot quicker because of that pumper. It gives you that extra squirt of gas. So it's got to be mindful of your tank. If you're used to running the stock carb, it goes through gas a lot quicker, so keep that in mind. Also, forgot to say that I geared down from a 14 front tooth to a 13 to give it extra low end, making second gear a lot more usable for hill climbs. The stock gearing is a little bit tall for that. It'll still do second gear hill climbs, but this kind of gives it a little bit more grunt, perfect for back here where it's not real wide open. No complaints. I've always loved this bike. You know, once we started doing a lot more hardish enduro stuff, this just wore me out so much. We did a big 50-mile ride, and I couldn't lift my arms after riding this bike the day after. So it was grueling. So that's why I had to get a Beta, which is way lighter. That bike weighs 40 pounds less than this pretty much. So yeah, that was a big difference there. But yeah, so for this, we got the 257 claim dry weight. You know, it's probably closer to 270 after it's covered in mud and, you know, got the fluids in it and stuff. So it's a pretty heavy bike, but it's got gobs of low and mid-range power. Decent top end, but that's where this bike shines, is the low and mid-range, especially mid-range, where you can get some good torque generated for hill climbs and stuff right in there. So it's like the sweet spot. I mean, low end too, but you'll see what I mean. Oh yeah, I got the case saver, the Scott Summers stuff that he used to sell in the late 90s, early 2000s. That's that fork brace, is a Scott Summers fork brace. And I did have the shock revalved a while back. It probably needs rebuilt again, but yeah, it's held up good. Let's get her started. All right, same route. I'm just gonna come up here, turn around, go back the same way we did on the 250 there. I'll be feeling the weight here soon, I'm sure, once we get into this stuff. I might have to let some air out of the tires too. It's really the first ride I've done on these brand new tires with this bike, so I might have to adjust midway. We'll see how it hooks up though. Okay, here's some tricky stuff already here. Alright, so that kind of stuff, this bike, you just kind of throw it over it. It tanks itself right over it. That was like just above idle in first gear, and I was able to just point it, just keep the throttle open enough so it keeps that momentum and all that. The weight does come in handy in some ways like that too, where you can just use the inertia to get over stuff. Whereas a lighter, more nimble bike gets thrown around a little bit more. Alright, second gear. This is that big hill climb with no run here. Here we go. Yeah, like they say, there sometimes is no replacement for displacement. It just made that easy. Wasn't even revving out second gear that far. This is technical stuff here. I'm going to let a little air out of the rear tire. I can kind of feel it sliding around a little bit. Just going to let a little bit out. Alright, sitting up taller too is a little more daunting in this stuff than a bike that lets you get your feet down. I'm a shorter guy, 5'8", so short inseam too, so it can be a little tricky on these taller bikes to do this stuff. Probably why I like my 200 and my Beta so much. They sit a lot lower. Still doable though. I've still done this loop on this bike. Just gotta be more mindful. Thing's biting in great with these tires on this off camber. That extra weight can help actually. It's helping me quite a bit through here with these rocks. Like it just plows its way through it and it stays on track just because it's so heavy. And it flexes through stuff. You got all that torque right off of idle, so you don't have to worry about clutching it either. Just leaving it first in a lot of this tight stuff, and you can just kind of idle through it all. Little watch there. I get hung up on that. There you go. Feel the extra weight going downhill, obviously. But these brakes work a little bit better than the 250s, I think. Because I think, like I said, the 250 had a little bit of contamination on the front pads, at least. These ones are kind of bedding in. Not brand new, but they've been on here a while, so they're working good. Yeah, like it's just kind of idle through that. Doesn't even throw the bike off track. This bike just doesn't get out of whack with that extra weight. It just plows its way through this stuff. Never really notice it until you get on a 250, then right on this back to back. Second gear, just chugging through this. Let's see how it does on this. Fresh stuff. Brakes are working way better than the 250s, I can tell. Gotta get those sorted. flexing all through this, pointing it, and it's just tracking its own way through it, really. Tractor. Okay, it's gonna be a little tricky. Let's see what she does. Install it. Alright. That would be a little precarious situation if I got to stop with this bike, 'cause it's a lot heavier. I kind of tiptoe more on it. So on the off camber, to get stock, this bike could be a handful, especially if you got to restart it after you drop it, if it's upside down or something. Second gear on that hill. Definitely more comfortable on this bike, just because I had the advantage of having it for so long. So I know exactly what it's going to do in most situations. So, if I had more seat time on the 250, it could probably be a better comparison, but what are you going to do? Just now starting to set in, so I'm not getting it as bad as I was with the 250, to be honest. Maybe the handlebars, like the way it's ergonomically, the stock bars might have my arm at a weird angle or something, which might be causing that. But yeah, so far less arm pump on the 400, believe it or not. Back in the more technical off camber. Really impressed with those IMAX tires up front. They're pretty inexpensive. I think I paid like 60 bucks for them. And I'm running it on this bike and the 250, and both bikes just handle the off camber. They bite in really well. They got nice tall knobs that are spread out. They work really good. Really liking this VE33 on the back, though. That might be an unfair advantage to the 250. Unfair advantage for the 400 over the 250 is what I meant. Thing is just so forgiving on a hill. If you make a mistake, you kind of roll on the throttle on whatever gear you're in, and it just picks right back up. You got all that grunt, the tractor like power. this suspension is probably set up a little bit better for this stuff on this bike versus the 252. Right there, this has the advantage of the fork brace and all that too. And I did, mess with the clickers a lot more on this bike to get it dialed in, which I didn't really do too much on the 250, to be fair. So there's that to consider as well. It still works really well, don't get me wrong. That bike still works really well back here. You can't tell where I'm going with this. I'm liking my 400 better, just I'm more comfortable on it. Probably why. But we still got some more to do. All the seat height definitely comes to the disadvantage sometimes in those situations. Ducking under stuff. These kind of situations too. Yeah, it's a little more to muscle around for sure in those kind of spots. Crawl slowly through the slippery rocks. Oh, one down there. Almost went down. Mossy rocks. These deer are probably like, why is he back through here again? Sorry guys. Just chased them out all about half an hour ago. Nothing throws this bike off track right through these rocks. Point it and it flexes and bounces its way through there. No problem. Twisty Pines. Coming over to my favorite section in the big hill, the Queen Mother. We're going to hit that one in second. We did on the 250. We're going to see if we can make it up with the 400. I've done that hill many times on this bike. But it's changed over the years. It's gotten harder, so we're going to see. It's been a little while since I did it on this one. We're going to see what happens. Okay, we're going to do second gear, like I said again. Get into second now. Get ready. Oh yeah, there it was. Second gear, and it was hooking up so good that it wasn't even spinning. I was just about to grab the clutch, but it just powered its way up there. Impressive. Keep steady gas on it, and it tracked its way through all this stuff, no problem. Not enough seat time on the 250 and modifications too. So there is a more advantage with this bike and this test. A little biased, like I said, but wanted to give you guys a back-to-back look on the same trail. See how it handles. Different spots, back-to-back, which is nice to see. Big log crossing. Last hill. We're back. Let you know what I think here. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this little XR400 versus 250 shootout. Something, like I said, I've been wanting to do since I saw it in Dirt Bike magazine in the late 90s. I just wish I had an XR600 to park right in front of the 400 there, but one of these days I'll find one. They're just, they're tough to find and nobody wants to sell them. So one day though, I have the XR650R liquid cooled. It's not in the same league really. It's more of a Baja bike, which I do plan on bringing back here and doing the 10-mile torture test at some point with that bike here soon. So I'm going to put myself through some torture with that for some good footage. So stay tuned for that. But back to these two. If you couldn't tell, I'm going to pick the 400 every day, I think. The only place I could see myself taking the 250 over this would be for extremely tight, almost like hardish enduro trails, like where you're not getting up to speed and you're making like 90-degree turns up little shooter hills with like loam and all that. The 400 just powers through all the big hill climbs, no problem. You can see I did that Queen Mother Hill second gear and it just powered its way up there, no problem. It started chugging towards the top, but I didn't have to clutch it. It just kind of used all that low end grunt and it pulled its way up. These VE33 tires are probably a big help to that though. It's a little bit of an unfair advantage probably for the 250 with the IMAX. I mean, the knobs are pretty well spaced out, but they're different pattern, a little bit stiffer too. So the VE is probably helping that situation on that rocky Rudy climb. But either way, I still love this bike. I mean, if I could keep this, I would, the 250. I can't keep everything, unfortunately, but this bike works really good in the tight stuff. You could feel the weight difference in the technical stuff. I'm not wrestling it around quite as much. Now the weight, it's a little tricky to explain with the 400. It is heavier, so if you drop that thing on the side of a hill, you're feeling it picking it up versus this. This is way lighter. So if you can keep the 400 upright and not have to worry about kicking it over, after you drop it on the side of a hill, which will wear you out, believe me, I know that. I have the starting procedure down, but it still wears you out, especially if it's upside down and the carb kind of floods out. But that's one thing. So dropping it, wrestling it in the tight stuff, the 250 has the advantage, but the weight on the 400, if you could keep it upright, it will plow its way over rocks and roots with no problem. Trees, you just point it, give it a little bit of throttle, blip it, and that extra weight and inertia takes you right over stuff without any issue. So it has its disadvantages and advantages with the weight. The power, there's no question. I'll take the 400. 250, not as much. It's still got good glow and grunt, but you know, it does lack on the hills. So it's pretty much what I remember. From what I remember, that article saying was the 600 was his favorite summers, of course, just because it had so much tractor power and it just blew its way through rocks and flexed and everything, kind of like I was saying with this bike does. Both of them flex through the rocks really well. 400 with extra weight, with that extra almost, I don't know, what is it, 20 pounds, did I say? Definitely noticeable, you know, when you're using that inertia to your advantage. So yeah, I'd still pick the 400. I mean, I'm biased. I'm sorry. I've had that bike since I was 19, so I just know it so well. I know what it'll do. I know what gear I got to be in for stuff. The 250, maybe if I had more seat time and I could dial in suspension a little bit more. So, you know, I just didn't have time to do it, and I'm eventually going to be selling that. And I wanted to get this video in and have them both in the same trails, fresh tires, same day back-to-back loop, and I finally got that done. As I'm going to do more shootouts, I got a idea still I've been wanting to do with a TS 185 versus the Yamaha DT3 or CT3 175. A little bit different class of bikes, but it'll be a cool comparison. They're both kind of in the same weight class, and like I said, I know one's a 400 here and one's 250. They're not exactly the same weight class, but you know, when I saw Dirt Bike Magazine do that shoot, I was like, man, that'd be so cool to do. You know, when I bought the 250, that was like the first thing that popped in my mind. I was like, I'm gonna do a 200 or a 250 versus 400 shootout back in my woods. So it'd be cool if I can get extra riders to ride along too, and everyone give their 2 cents. Yeah, I'll just do it on my own here, like I've been doing. So, all right, we'll see you in the next video, guys. Hit that subscribe button. Leave me a like and some comments if there's anything else you'd like to see before I sell this bike, the 250 that is. Keeping it for a little bit longer, but we will be selling it at some point soon. So, all right, guys, see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.